We are live, people.
Are you ever going to come up with a better intro? How about
Nope.
we talk about how we got here?
I refuse to come up with a better one because that's the best one. You hear me?
How convenient. What a convenient narrative you live. So you're probably wondering about our surroundings right now. And guys, we finally did it.
There's a palace-like place. You were thinking probably. We finally made it. Guess
We have.
what?
We won the $1 billion lottery. Oh, come on, really? You don't want to tell them we won the lottery?
I'm just not good at lying, man. Unlike you.
It's a skill, guys. It's a skill. You got to start with lying to yourself and then slowly but surely start reaching out to others. Lie to them. It's so much easier once you can lie to yourself effectively.
All the know-how, ins and outs of, all the lying.
I would just like to
that
say
you have developed over 3 decades, right?
Yeah. Scumbaggery comes at a high cost, but I've mastered it.
Scumbaggery is a real thing.
But yeah, we drove through the night, and we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico right now.
Took us about half a day, even though it was supposed to take 6 to 7 hours.
There's a lot of hiccups.
Yeah,
but it was
a lot of hiccups.
It was a good road trip. We got some rain, saw some beautiful sights, drove through the night, so we didn't get here till about...
We talked about it yesterday. Sorry to cut you up, but keep going, Ashley. Yeah.
We got here about 1 a.m. and got everything set up now. We're just going to record this episode. So drinking some tea.
Green tea.
Yeah. Get a little caffeine in us.
It's pretty good, actually. I'm not a big fan of tea, but...
that's kind of...
Don't look at me like that.
It's kind of offensive to your people, but whatever.
Face. What? You don't like green tea? How dare you?
Do you own a
vegan as well?
Next thing you're going to be telling me you don't like fortune cookies, bro. What are you talking about? You don't like tea. What, you don't like kung fu either?
I happen to dislike everything, but... by the way, we noticed yesterday, right? I mean, how beautiful it was, right? Was that a northern part of Arizona, I guess?
Yeah, northern Phoenix.
Wow.
Like, as soon as you get to Payson, and then you head east.
It was so beautiful. We started seeing greens and trees, higher altitude. It was some, I mean, unlike anything that you would see in central Arizona, I guess, Phoenix and southern part of Arizona, which is completely just desert, right? And the heat is unbearable.
Oh my
yeah, I mean, I hate to say that word, but I mean, pretty close. I would say. I mean, I think I'm qualified to say this at least because I spent, I don't know, probably half a year total in South Arizona. During the summer, the heat is unbearable. Even though it's getting better. Anyway, the point is, it's hard to see any green other than artificially planted trees. But when we were getting out of Arizona toward north, there were a lot of trees. We just couldn't believe that was Arizona, right?
Yeah, it was very beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I feel bad, Arizona. I've been calling you bad names. I've been saying poor things about you.
Right.
But what I really meant was, fuck you, Phoenix. You suck. It was city specific. Now I realize the transgression of my ways. I need to be more specific. So Arizona as a state has a lot of beauty. Just don't go to Phoenix for it because that's not where it is.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not.
Unless we're talking about those Scottsdale girls.
Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of great parts about Arizona, I think. But, I'm having a difficulty listing them. But
liar.
Anyway, we're in Albuquerque visiting Lafayette's family, right? And fortunately, there was nobody at home right now, so... we decided to do our podcast. As you can see, the big island behind us is just part of this gigantic house. I don't know how big it is, but over 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's a big spot for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Very empty.
But what are we talking about today?
We're talking about arguably one of the best time periods of the 20th century.
Go. Yeah.
We're talking about the 90s.
Hell yeah. I'm officially Gen X, by the way, because some people define Gen X everybody who's born between mid 60s and early 80s. Some define it more specifically, like 61 to 81. Cutoff is 81.
Really?
Some say, yeah, I don't know why. Some say that like mid 60s to early 80s, but some define it more accurately from 61 to 81.
And that is that just defining that
Mhm.
this cultural influence is predominantly based in that time period? So you would be Gen X because you're influenced by the same culture for the last 20 years. They say like, okay, here's a shift in
Right.
culture, and then they readjust what the name is. I don't know how it works. That's why I'm
Well,
asking.
because the term, I think it was coined for the first time in 1991 or 2 by this novelist. I forgot the gentleman's name in his book.
Oh,
I think that's where
okay.
he coined for the first time. And obviously, you can talk about similarities and the cultural impacts of a certain generation. That's totally possible, right? But we tend to do that so that we can have just more practical means of having conversation,
Yeah.
about different generations. I think it's just for the convenience, honestly, and then distinguish between those generations, cultural elements, and other things. Yeah,
That makes sense. What am I then? Do you know what
you're a millennial officially.
Millennial?
Yeah.
bullshit? Let me tell you about them goddamn millennials fucking ruining the country for all of us.
You're officially millennial.
That's right, $1 million, baby.
I think I can be millennial too. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. See, it's just fucking slippery when you start trying to classify and do
people
all.
like me. I mean, if you're close to the end of previous generation, and the earlier period of next generation, then you're kind of in between, right? You've experienced. Doesn't matter what the definition is. You've experienced both. Yeah. So in my opinion, in between is kind of the best age groups of each generation.
Very interesting.
I think. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I'd
if
say so,
if
yeah.
I were if I was born in 62, for example, I mean, I would know a lot more about baby boomers and that 60s culture. I don't know if I haven't experienced 60s culture. I just know indirectly. I experienced it indirectly.
I mean, we know the bigger things like the
So-
hippie movement, free love,
Mhm.
Woodstock, anti-war with Vietnam. We know those
Mhm.
types of elements
Yeah.
that then, obviously drifted over into the 70s
Mhm.
and even to some regard the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
for
it's
sure.
impossible to
Yeah.
disassociate those two things entirely. But let's talk about the favorite thing that you had in the 90s. Was there something specific that stands
Mm-hmm.
out for you when somebody says, 90s or 90s kid?
Mhm.
What comes to mind?
There are so many things, but I think it's really important to the reason I think, of course, I think everybody has biased opinions about their
Mhm.
generation, because that's the generation that they actually experienced. That's the decade they actually
Yeah.
experienced, right? It's the most nostalgic time. So I think there's a little biased element in this, but in my opinion, though, the 90s was truly the most evolving time and the peak of American culture generally across the board. The reason I'm thinking that way is that it was backed up by very influential events. One of them is the economic boom, right? We had those economic boom before 20s, 50s, post World War II, but it was unprecedented in that it lasted for a decade.
Yeah.
That was another thing. About the 90s economic boom, it is unprecedented because it lasted for a long freaking time, unlike others. And then that was, by the way, because of mostly moderate interest rate and growth rate. I mean, this is not anything about economy, but when economy grows too rapidly over, I think the Fed usually puts at aims for like 6%, 7%, 6.5. But if that growth rate is too rapid, too high, then you're risking going into this end phase of business cycle, right? The fluctuation, which can lead to inflation, therefore recession. But the reason the 90s economic boom lasted for a long time was that because of that moderate growth rate, it was kept under 6% the entire decade. That's why we had that economic boom for a long time. If you look at 20s economic boom, the growth rate was 42%. Yeah, it's crazy.
Nah.
So you cannot really manage that to last for a long time. You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, we also had the birth and, I mean, resurgence isn't the correct word, but the new age of technology.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Stepping into it, fully committed.
Mm-hmm.
The internet, right? I mean,
yes, that's what I was going to say, that the second biggest factor that fit to all the growth of cultural elements and other sectors was the internet revolution.
Yeah, the dot-com bubble, everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first time, we had easily accessible. Well, I shouldn't say easily, right? Not everybody had dial-up, and it was a pain in the ass to use dial-up too.
Right.
We've talked about that stupid sound. Insert sound clip.
We did actually, right?
Whatever, yeah. You know, that horrible dial-up sound, and you're like,
Right.
oh, nobody can be on the phone right now. I'm connecting to the internet.
Right.
AOL, fucking
Right.
CDs, and things like that. But it was a huge thing for also the media industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, an effective way to market and advertise
Yeah.
that's never been seen before. And then you had people coming together on internet forums, creating boards and having discussions,
Yeah.
and really developing this internet culture, this
Yeah.
type of kind of modern culture
Yeah.
where it doesn't require us to be in person with one another to
Mhm.
have it with a whole bunch of different people from all parts of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally evolutionary. When we start to look at browser came out for the first time, now we can see text and picture on one page. Evolutionary. It's nothing now, right? But back then, you can communicate through text and pictures with someone on a web page where you still feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable. You know, the blue screen and green screen, whatever, you know. But that's when we really started internet, the 90s. I think it was early 90s when Congress passed this, I forgot the name of the legislation, but that allowed internet for commercial use. So companies started, you know, producing their products and services, and from that point is the history, really.
Yeah, it was like the most effective way for us to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
And so you're going to see a rapid progression in the culture as
Yeah.
well, right? You know, the arts. Hell, man. I mean, the sciences. Everything was benefited to some regard by the technological advancement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than maybe potentially some humanitarian things,
Mhm.
there's definitely some argument about technology may be regressing us for humanitarian causes.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument to be made there, but that's neither here nor there, is it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fucking Bulls.
Bulls. Yeah. I was gonna say that if I'm asked, if I have to choose one phenomena in the 90s that was the most prominent over time, over the decade, I will have to say Air Jordans, really, because he was big, man. The brand was big. The explosion of Bulls, the popularity, and even I grew up in Korea. Everybody knew Michael Jordan. Like literally everybody knew Michael Jordan. Even my parents knew who Michael Jordan was.
Dude, yeah. Even when I was in Israel in 2000, Michael Jordan, you know?
Yeah.
Even in Thailand when we were recently there, oh, Michael Jordan, Bulls, you know?
Yeah.
Cab drivers. It's still that
Yeah.
powerful of an influence that he had. I mean,
Yeah.
literally changed the world. I think if you look it up, he's one of the most influential people in history and
Mhm.
well-known figures.
Yeah.
You know, similar up there with like Michael Jackson. And again,
Yeah, dude.
we're talking about cultural figures, not necessarily people that have changed the world for, you know, technological, humanitarian, or other reasons, but cultural figures.
Mhm.
Undeniable his impact.
Yeah, and I think that was possible. I think it's because at that time, the athletes or celebrities really didn't have any platform to communicate directly with their fans. So in a
Mhm.
way that they had this, how do you say? Um, People had that respect and fantasy about them too, because they didn't know anything about them. They didn't. Those athletes and celebrities really didn't reveal their personal stuff, or how they talk, how certain opinions by them on certain things, like these days the athletes and celebrities do today, right?
Yeah.
So I think in a way that people had more fantasy about those celebrities and big figures.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes total sense, because it also went from being this niche type of conversation where you could only have, you know, these very small, intimate settings, or
Mhm.
perhaps you're one of the lucky people that goes to a press conference, gets to hear it,
Mhm.
but the only people that are reporting on it are going to be sports writers and possibly the newspapers, which again will limit the
Mhm.
amount of people that are exposed to the commentary,
Yeah.
what the people are talking about, what these athletes are doing,
Yeah.
how relatable they are.
Yeah.
It's like the first time where you can actually, I wouldn't say the first time, but because there's people before this, obviously. But here, with this unique situation we're in, economic success, cultural boom, technology boom,
Mhm.
wow, we can have somebody legitimately be, who's an athlete, basically a movie star,
Yeah.
like a household name
Yeah.
for everybody around the world.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Right, and then that was only accelerated, boosted by his new brand, his own brand, and his not own brand, but his brand with Nike, Air Jordan, right? I think that really accelerated his popularity as well. It was a means to spread his popularity, spread his charisma.
Mm-hmm.
If there wasn't no Air Jordan, he was just purely a good basketball player, or if you want to put it as the best basketball player of all time, whatever. He was just probably a really famous athlete, still maybe popular, but he had that means, shoes, clothing that people could relate through to him, right? I think that really cemented his position internationally.
Yeah,
Because of that product.
I mean, who doesn't want to wear the same things that the best basketball player in the world's wearing?
Yeah, exactly.
Arguably.
Yeah.
Fucking A. Yeah, dude. I'll wear a shirt. I'll wear his, his shoes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. They were a huge deal for a very long time.
His shoes were not cheap at all. Yeah.
I never owned a pair.
Me
I've
either.
never owned a pair of Jordans.
Later,
and I fucking think
became-
they're sick.
Yeah.
I still think they're sick, but I never owned a pair.
I think it was common for teens to do part-time job and, gather
know.
money and buy Jordan.
Oh man, that's a good
Pair of
question. What
Jordans.
was the first thing you were gonna buy with your part-time job? What was it? You're like, you know what? I'm gonna do a part-time job so I can purchase this one thing. Can you remember?
Yeah, one thing, it was during the 90s, during the time, certain fashion items were really popular. One of them was that like color blocked windbreakers, and also starter jacket. Like because of that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to buy. Yeah, it was pretty expensive, and then I could wear that fall and even winter. So it was really practical. It was expensive, but it was practical, and I played basketball all the time when I was young. So that's what I wanted to buy. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Practical, useful, and fucking fly as hell.
Yeah. And when I was young, beyond Jordan and all that, the big brands were really popular when I was young. In the 90s, Adidas. People may ask me like, "Oh,
He's basically an Adidas rep. All you wear is Adidas.
Those were popular before." Yeah, of course. But I think, again, because of the economic boom, those brands became, I think, a lot bigger.
Yeah, I mean,
for
Korea
sure.
was in a unique position as well, so that they
Mhm.
could be receptive to this kind of change in media and culture that
Yeah.
was basically a worldwide phenomena, again because of the internet.
Yeah.
You know, everybody
sure.
could contribute, adapt, adopt,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of put their own spin on it. So it seems like it worked parallel with like Korea's economic stability at that
Mhm.
time, right? Because you guys were just basically finishing early development in the 90s.
Yeah,
at this
90s
point.
were no, actually 90s were that's like 70s and 80s where we could finally come back from the devastation of war. 90s was more like new era for the bigger player of the economy. Samsung, for example. Samsung had been by the way, it's like we're going into
Are you trying to kick out our non-Patreon members? I'm sorry, guy. He always does this. I say, let's just let them all watch. And he says, no, they have to be Patreon members and they have to pay us $10,000. I said, that's a pretty good deal. So, yeah, we got to kick you out. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, this is the end for the free version this week. Thanks for listening, guys.
Leave
See
a
you
comment,
next week.
subscribe,
Yeah.
leave hate mail, send nudes. All right, see you guys.
Bye. All right.
Back to our paying friends. It's kind of weird that you say your friends pay you. Would you say they're friends then?
Oh, well, it's not exactly paying. I would say it's a support.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially
By the
since-
way, if you're not supporting us and you're
I was like,
you wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna spill all our vile to those that can't hear us now. That's what you really are, supporting us for, to hear us say bullshit about other people that failed to support. Could you imagine?
Fail to support. Wow. But yeah, we really thank our Patreon
Yeah,
members,
thanks,
every one
guys,
of
so
you.
much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, we're gonna probably make a big announcement soon. We're gonna launch a promotion. Just throwing out there right now.
Oh yeah, our
we'll,
secret promotion. I
We'll
forgot
announce
about
it
second.
when we have more concrete plan. But
Yeah, we've got a lot of travel planned for the next couple of weeks. Working on the van, trying to get it fixed up, trying to go to Denver, go see our buddies out there, do some rock climbing, get in the
Yep.
mountains.
Yeah, can't wait for that. Overdue. Way overdue.
If only the people watching this knew. Yeah, there's a lot of things. But anyways, back to the 90s. We're talking about the fucking superstar, Michael Jordan himself.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great documentary, by the way, on Netflix or whatever.
The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, you can. There are a lot of things in that, Yeah, so I strongly suggest you to watch it. But in our context today, we're talking about the 90s. We're talking about basically the Michael Jordan, the Air Jordan brand, blew up. He became worldwide phenomena, but I think that's about it. But I think in terms of the impact of him, I really put him up like top 3 of the most influential factors or cultural element of the 90s. I dare to do that. Yeah.
I'd say that's fair for a professional athlete or just cultural figure.
Yeah.
Impact is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it'd be interesting to study the impact.
Mm-hmm.
What was the impact made? Yeah, everybody knows who he is. Everybody's familiar with the NBA, basketball, the rivalries, and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But what did it do to illuminate?
I think he opened the door for a lot of athletes.
You think so?
Yeah, because mainly through 2 ways. One, if you're good at what you're doing, truly, at the highest level, you can be popular. You can be recognized. I think that was one thing that he showed to other athletes. And then number 2, he showed the new way of making money as an athlete.
Yeah,
that's
big
why.
time, right?
Yeah, he opened the door for that for everyone.
Yeah, and now that's what pretty much every NBA player, football player,
Yeah.
soccer player, whatever sport, right? You're trying to look for the sign-on deal
Mm-hmm.
for like Nike, Adidas, all these big players, so you can
Mhm.
get your name on a shoe or a piece of clothing
Mm-hmm.
or some type of apparel. So
Yeah.
it became much more than selling tickets and trying to get people in the stadium or trying to get people to tune in to the the radio broadcast
Mm-hmm.
or the actual TV broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
It became huge financial incentive for the NBA to sign players
Yeah.
and then to also tie them to these brands.
Yeah.
Lucrative deals, big
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, and then also we're talking about Jordan a lot, but I'm just briefly, we're going to wrap this up soon, but he was also, I think, for the first time as an athlete who was viewed as an unbeatable, untouchable figure. Like today, you talk about even, we have still that ongoing conversation about who is the greatest of all time. You talk about Jordan, Kobe, whatever. Today, to this context, you even, there are figures to compare to even, the one who is considered the best, like LeBron, for example.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, there was no competitor. There was undeniably he was the best player of that time. There was no comparison. They were making comparison of him against, his the older players before his time, but contemporarily there was no competitor at that time. But today, all athletes, Messi, he's probably one of the greatest of all time, but he's compared to Ronaldo. Ronaldo is compared to Messi. If you go to basketball, LeBron, Kobe, you have all contemporary competitors, but he really didn't have that contemporary competitor.
Mm-hmm.
He was the top of the top. There was no comparison. I think that's why his charisma was so untouchable.
Yeah. I mean, when you're considered the best at what you do by most
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
you also get away with a lot of other types of behavior,
Yeah.
which I think they do a good job of showing in that documentary. Some of his more negative competitive elements and
Mm-hmm.
all the other things that make him who he is.
Right.
But enough with him. Let's get on to the next thing, the 90s. How about the fucking music of the 90s?
There's so much to talk about. But yeah, 90s. Where to start? I think in the 90s, we started to see new types of music, right? But most notably, explosion of hip hop was probably the biggest phenomena of in the 90s when it comes to music.
The
in my
mainstream
opinion.
adaptation of
Of course, rap was popular before then, but it really permeated through across the board. Like it was popular to Asian, black, white, doesn't matter anymore. It was not just exclusive thing for the black communities. It was not like that anymore. And then that happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's incredibly complex to get into.
Yeah.
But even rock, had an explosion of alternative
Mhm.
rock and different types of sounds. And it's just cool that all these things did seem to come together at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to identify a single attributing factor
Yeah.
as to why this
sure.
could occur. But again, it's kind of hard to deny the impact that technology
Mm-hmm.
and then also the manufacturing capabilities to readily get these things out cheap
Mm-hmm.
to people.
Yeah.
You can go to your electronics store, easily just walk over there and get something.
Yeah.
Everybody's got some of the older technology now. It's cheaper. It's mass produced. Semiconductors taken off in a different
Mhm.
way, memory
Yeah.
and all these other products. But yeah, the music from the 90s, ton of great artists.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like punk rock, you've got metal, the shift in metal,
Mhm.
the tones, the changes.
I think one of the biggest contributing factors at that time, I think the 90s, on top of that economic boom, right? People had money to spend, man. That was another thing. That really escalated the popularity as well, right?
Yeah.
People spend money. Skateboarding, electronics, homes, you name it. Like, it's just people had money to spend. And that's why I think we cannot really exclude economic factor on the influence of other sectors of the society.
Yeah.
But when it comes to music, yes, the economic boom was a big factor. But another factor was that, of course, we had this growing racial tension as well, still. But it really carried over from the 60s, right? 80s, we had this new age era, basically. But the 90s, they called it a little bit differently, new age, whatever. I mean, I don't know how you call it, neo, whatever. But it was very similar in spirit, but also differ in other aspects as well, because the new age movement, spiritualism, was more about, yes, they try to avoid this religious beliefs and things like that, but it had this elements of otherworldly things, transcendental or spiritual, extraterrestrial, otherworldly elements in this New Age movement. 90s New Age movement was a little bit different. Yes, against the system, against authoritarians and things like that, but it was more about individuality. I think that element really permeated in the music industry too.
Yeah.
That's what really contributed to the growth of hip hop and other genres that are basically rebellious, against the authoritarians, things like that. Spirit, I think that really fueled those genres at that time.
Yeah. Do you think for the common person though that they succeeded in basically creating or finding an identity in this kind of merging of these technologies and these time periods? Because I feel like companies just largely capitalized on people's lack of identity, and they're like, "Yo, let's sell them this identity. They're gonna buy it. They love fucking Michael Jordan. They love this artist. They love whatever. We can sell them shit because they're gonna feel like,
right,
yo, this is how I show I like that guy. I like this stuff. This is who I am. This is what constitutes my identity." So I think there was a huge uptick as well on the marketability of identity. And all these companies fucking took advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably make that argument that this large scale oppression on people's identity, or take advantage of that identity, really exploded in the 90s as well.
Yeah, I mean, who's making these Nikes? I don't know, but I'd be shocked if it was fucking ethically made Nikes. Sorry, China.
Well, yeah, I remember when I was young. I don't really own any Nike products anymore. I really don't. But when I was young, I remember, even though I didn't own any Jordan or any pair of that, but I had other stuff like jacket. If you check their origin, where it's made, it was typically Malaysia. I remember that. Yeah, I don't know if that's still the case, but when I was young, that was the case. It was not made in America. No.
Yeah. What a shock! What a surprise! Somebody else to do the work for us and make the money off them.
Yes.
But it seems like even in this amazing time period where we have this explosion of culture and these ideas, like, fucking wonderful, don't get me wrong, but there's also people that just kind of adopted these identities and put them on, and maybe they didn't really fit them. So I think even in this time period, people still are suffering from this thing we talk about all the time, is who am I and how do I choose to become who I want to be? Like, you're born in this world again with these innate ideas, these innate values, and now you think, oh, here's the culture changing and shifting. I kind of like these things. But were you really choosing this set of culture and these set of values? Yeah. Or were you merely just trading one for the other?
Yeah, that's I mean, it's hard to argue against it, really, because we've talked about this many times that, yes, along the process, you may have your own things. Don't get me wrong. That's not impossible. If you really give this exhaustive process of processing, this process of understanding concepts and ideas of your time, critically judge them, Yes, it's possible, but it is undeniable that we're born into these things. And we're born into these things and learn these things in the language that we have no idea, we have never developed. So everything is imposed at this point. Everything's everything on which you're operating is given to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it becomes the matter of whether or not you have yourself, or even deeper, whether or not you have free will.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a whole another discussion, but at least we know this, that we're born into these things that we had not created.
Yeah.
And that becomes your main primary means of communicating your ideas, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, there's a danger that you may not be being yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously had the blow up of a lot of people that were totally being themselves, and they were some of the larger cultural figures from that time period, which I think they always are. Every time period kind of has those rebellious people that step against the norm, and some of them find success for it. I think typically that's if capitalism can find use in taking advantage and exploiting them and selling their product. But again, it does sometimes just happen that both cases in both scenarios are true. Capitalism finds a way to take advantage, and also their message is true and clear and concise and useful, and people attach themselves to that idea and that concept, and it's still a powerful thing. I'm not saying that all cultural figures, all movements have to be devoid of this kind of capitalistic thing in order to be sacred, worthwhile, or useful to your life. It's just we have to do so much work to disjoin the two and identify, where is this actually like a capitalistic endeavor, and where is like the actual value proposition here, and which one am I leaning more into? Right. Am I just being well marketed to, or is there actually some like depth here and some real value? And it gets hard. It gets messy real quick, because you got to wrestle with it based on where your experience has brought you. And that could take a long time. Maybe you adopt it for some time period and you find out like, this isn't a thing. I feel like I'm being exploited. Or maybe you find, oh shit, they're really onto something here. And then you can kind of segregate it out a bit better. But the 90s definitely brought some interesting thoughts and ideas that previously were not hashed out that way. And so I think it was a huge benefit for us. And even today, I mean, have we had a time period like the 90s since the 90s? I don't think so. The 2000s to me, look, I love a lot of bands from the 2000s.
Still echoing from the 90s, especially all the 2000s.
And, even the 2010s, like, what the fuck happened in the 2010s? I don't know. I fucking have no idea, man. Right. I mean, there's some big pop stars and things like that. And of course, if we're going to talk about like politics and wars and things, of course those things occurred, but for whatever reason the 90s is similar to me to like the 20s, this kind of golden era, this kind of time period that people look back on and want to romanticize with. I mean, the 90s was golden age for a lot of things. Golden age for coffee exploded in the 90s. Actually up to 90s in the coffee world, it is called the dark age of coffee, American coffee. So the 90s was the golden age for coffee. It was the golden age for music. It was the golden age for movies, sports. I mean, a lot of things, even economy, right? I mean, it was golden age for almost everything. I mean, there's a reason that people fantasize about 90s. Because it was a fucking great time. And still, in my opinion, this is another thing that we haven't talked about. Not the economic factor or not the cultural factor of the 90s, but diplomatically. The other countries didn't really hate America as they do today, or other countries didn't really disrespect America like they do today. The 90s, still there was respect. Well, I think this is also largely a byproduct of the means of information traveling more effectively. Communication devices, the internet, eventually the cell phone. basically we got to the point where you couldn't hide the bullshit that was so apparent here.
Yeah. True.
You know, like the fucking wrongdoings, all of this was arriving rapidly to realize how fucked up things are actually in this country. You know, social justice movements, inequity, the feministic movements, all these types of things also came together. And slowly but surely people start realizing, oh man, maybe America is not this behemoth of morality and greatness that we initially thought it was.
Yeah.
Which I think was a good fucking curtain to be pulled. People kind of get a good look behind the mask and see what's going on. The puppeteer pulling the strings, and to find out a lot of it's money based.
Yeah.
You know, then we end the 90s by going into a war.
Yeah.
So
not a good time, but culturally, you know, again, very good time, the golden age, because 60, we had the rebellious, you know, societal movement, societal spirit, which was oppressed by the government. You know, what was the exact legislation name against the war against all drugs? What was that during? What's the legislation? Anyway, the point is, you know, the government, the authoritarians, really reacted to that rebellious spirit of the 60s and carried over to 70s, and the 80s was sort of like completely oppressed because of that force, and the 90s was kind of kicked back, like a revival of that new age, right?
Don't you feel like we're always kind of going back and looking at the past and being like, oh, you know what, things were actually pretty fucked up then. now that I'm thinking about it a little clearer,
right?
So you say, you know, diplomatically, kind of like geopolitical, like a world scale, the U.S. was viewed in this positive regard.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
But do you think this was just a misrepresentation because we didn't have enough people coming forth about the reality, the nature of things? Like, do you think the U.S. was actually like this fucking wonderful place to live in the 90s? If you were white, middle class, yeah, it was probably fucking awesome. But what about the vast majority, might be the wrong term mathematically. What about the other people, you know, the potential minority or other potential majority that don't fall into that economic realm? You know, you think it was great for them? Or
I mean, of course, if you go down to the bottom of the sector, of course there were people who suffered, but I think overall the economy was still great. That you know, excluding those extreme minorities, I think I shouldn't say all, but more people benefited from that economic boom than today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. I don't know if they're just giving loans to people. What if those people are just like getting through the 90s?
Well, that's another thing, because of the economic boom, the interest rate was low.
Yeah.
So you could actually get loans. That's another thing. So if you look at that part, it probably was better at that time for poor people than today, because today's it's not easy to get loans. Yeah,
and everything's fucking crazy expensive. Can you believe what people pay for homes right now?
Yeah.
I don't understand. People don't have jobs. We have the highest inflation rate that we've had. You know, it's not even like fully accounted for. And yet people can't go and buy a home because they're all crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Apartments are crazy expensive to rent. I don't know how anybody can afford anything right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
And yet people are doing it, and we don't have enough of things, is what we're told.
Yeah, that's why we're on the go all the time, guys.
Yeah, we ain't got money, bro. Always looking for that next trash can fire to keep us warm. Can of beans to keep our bellies full.
This week happens to be this palace.
Yeah, this is just, you know, chance.
By the way, we're going to cook on that big island after this podcast.
We are. We're going to get some meat.
Yeah. We ate so bad yesterday, but
road trip.
It was a good road trip.
It was
supposed to be 6 hours, but 12-hour road trip. We ate shit ton, guys.
We had 2 burgers. We had fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
Nuts. What else we have? We had a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Ice cream, watermelons,
Cheetos,
OJ, Coke. I did some Coke as well. Not the sniffing one, guys.
The injecting one.
The sucking one.
Well, now it sounds like something else, but
Yeah, we talked about coffee the other day. We dedicated an entire episode to coffee, right? So we talked a little bit about it, but in short, the 90s was really the golden age. Starbucks and Peet's Coffee in the 80s, they really spread this Garmin coffee, basically more available throughout the country. But then the 90s, the Starbucks took off, right? I don't know any statistics, the numbers exactly, but I do remember the 90s was the actual decade Starbucks really took off to another level. Yeah. I mean, that created just, we talked about it earlier at Starbucks earlier, really created the coffee houses, fucking coffee bars everywhere now, right? And then it created this new social scene. You know, you get together there, you know, socializing there, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get this fancy coffee, we talked about this before. The Starbucks coffee, some of them has the Chino, whatever toward the end of their names. It's not so made up names. They just wanted to copy Italian coffee.
Sound Italian.
Yeah.
Sounds sexy.
But it really was considered the luxury thing to do. You know, like get a fancy coffee and then you talk to your friends, whatever. Business meetings there. You know, just whole things that didn't exist before became available.
Right?
And yeah, and then like I said, when I bought this book and read called Blue Ocean Market, which is still, I'm sure, used in
business classes
and things like that. But it was Starbucks entirely dedicated to Starbucks at the time. The book, you know, it was the symbol of the success in using the strategies of Blue Ocean Market.
Yeah.
None existed
Amazing.
before. Yeah. And at the time, really, the brand image was top. Starbucks was top 5, man. Even number 1 at some point. Above Apple, above IBM, above Intel, Coca-Cola. Starbucks was that high. The brand image was so goddamn high, which is not the case anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still amazing, though, to see them even in Thailand or countries all around the world. Still got Starbucks.
Yeah.
I'm always like, what the fuck is Starbucks doing out here?
Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't that popular, though, right?
Where?
Did you say it was popular, Starbucks, in Thailand?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Bangkok, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
Even in our small town, there was a Starbucks. Yeah. I mean, we never went there, but... Except once to buy the French press.
I mean, I tell you this, like there wasn't really local coffee shops. We thought that there were local coffee shops, but there are not really. They're all franchises, Thai franchises.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly local coffee shop. Actually,
we didn't have strange hours. Remember, they wouldn't be open.
Yeah.
They're like, we're gonna go try to catch the boat, get a coffee. Oh, they're not open yet, even though it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
There's not that early rise and open up thing in Thailand.
Yeah.
Really. Any of the places we
Yeah,
went. Maybe
weird.
in the cities, but no.
Yeah, we're in basically
Countryside.
countryside, so we don't know exactly. And it gets only busy during the tourist season, between April and... Was that April? Oh, no, October.
No, October to April.
April, yeah, something like that. So we didn't get the full experience, I guess.
Yeah, when the temps are good.
Mm-hmm.
We went at the hottest time of year. That went right into rain season.
Even then, it was not as bad as
yeah.
fucking not here in Arizona, but you know,
Phoenix.
a hot summer in Phoenix.
You will die in Phoenix. That's the thing. You will fucking die if you're outside.
Yeah, I mean,
you cannot be
it's
outside.
Not laughable matter actually. We saw the other day it was over 600 people who die.
Some absurd number.
Yeah, I don't know the exact cause, but it has to do with
heat-related deaths.
Heat-related deaths, yeah. So I was super surprised to hear the number. I thought it was the nationwide, but it was not.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're... Yeah.
Crazy. But a couple more interesting, fun stuff to us, I guess. I'm pretty sure you experienced it as well. What was the... did you own any game console? During
Bro, the fucking Game Boy Color.
Yeah, there you go.
Was
Game Boy.
My shit.
Yeah, I was gonna just bring that up because Game Boy was truly. If you have to choose one toy, for the 90s, the best toy of all time.
Absolutely.
Not all time. Of the decade, I really gotta say Game Boy.
Game Boy changed. Wow. I mean, I guess you get into a kind of gaming episode, but yeah, it totally changed everything surrounding gaming.
Yeah.
It became accessible for everybody,
Yeah.
in your pocket, on demand, unprecedented. And it was like at an affordable level.
Yeah.
You could save up and actually buy one.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was Game Boy and Game Boy Link cable. And the color was later, I'm pretty sure, like 95, 6.
Yeah,
something like
color
that. Yeah.
color was later.
Mid-90s. But you're right. I mean, it was unprecedented, right? And it was invented by this guy who was a former Nintendo employee who designed. Do you remember Ultra Hand?
I don't actually.
I'm sure you know. So Ultra Hand is plastic, and it can collapse, and then if you trigger, it extends.
Oh.
You've seen that, right?
I'm sure if I saw it.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the guy who invented that, Ultra Hand.
Wow.
Yeah. He invented.
And then Nintendo's like, yo, we're buying that shit from you.
No. He was working for Nintendo at the time when he invented that Ultra Hand. But
what
he
about the Game Boy?
Came out of the company, and he invented Game Boy.
Well, Nintendo must have bought it from him because they own Game Boy.
Yeah. I don't know how that worked exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, that was when Pokemon, right? They made the Pokemon game, and
man, I wasn't so into that. So yeah, maybe
dude,
was the 90s really took off?
Yeah, man, Pokemon was huge here, still huge here. Fucking is still a very popular thing.
Was there a revival, by the way? A few years ago.
I don't think it ever went out. I actually don't think it ever went out.
Yeah, but I remember a couple of years ago, it was crazy. I mean,
Pokemon Go. Yeah, there was a huge resurgence with that. I mean, I haven't played Pokemon since I was a kid, but even in high school, I knew people that played it. And then when Pokemon Go, all these adults that were downloading it, playing it. I mean, we worked with people that played it, and they were like out there trying to catch shit, you know?
Yeah.
Very interesting, but I think that game's just gonna stick around forever. It has it's appealable to pretty much every age demographic, it seems. It's a collecting game. Really? Yeah. Like, everybody loves collecting shit.
Yeah. And then it'll get even better and better. The current one uses the AR, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to get even better.
Yeah.
So, I don't really see that dying out.
Yeah. Honestly, when it gets to that point, I'll give it a shot. You know, when I can have my glasses on, my sunglasses, and it's like, yo, there's a Pokemon over there.
Or even after that full emergence to the world.
Yeah, I'm totally in. I'll try it.
I'll totally try that. Actually, I'm like experiencing all that magical power, their abilities. Anything else you remember? When it comes to toy, I can't think of anything else other than, well, I'm sure there are a lot of notable ones, but other than Game Boy, truly the deserves that crown, the best toy of the decade.
I think so.
Yeah. But other than that, I can't really think of anything. I'm not a big game guy, honestly, but well, in the 90s, I do remember StarCraft. StarCraft was big. Yes.
StarCraft. That was a huge
late 90s. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, after mid 90s, that's for sure. I don't know exactly when it was invented. Blizzard, mid 90s. I still remember I was in high school, the first grade. And it started to become really, really popular. Yeah, everybody was fucking playing. And then at the time this is a different thing. Not in here in America, but in Korea, though, in the 90s, there was also explosion of,
gaming cafes?
Gaming cafes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so I remember, that's why I precisely remember when the year that StarCraft started to become really, really popular, which was 1990. 7, I think. I'm pretty sure, because I was on the first grade of high school, and my friend who was rich, he had a computer, he had a CD and everything. So I started to play, and I became really addicted to it. A couple of years later, I went to college, and entire first semester I didn't go to school playing game, and I got F for all subjects.
The power of
in my mind, I was becoming a professional gamer. So I dedicated like more than 20 hours a day, every day. But yes, StarCraft was big hit in the 90s. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that fucking hustle now, man? You fucking wasted it all in your goddamn youth on fucking StarCraft. Jesus.
And a bunch of other RPG games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lineage was one of them.
Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
a lot of the Final Fantasies.
The
The
RPG games.
PlayStation was in
Mhm.
the 90s.
Yeah.
Damn.
Fucking good time, man.
Yeah,
talking about it.
yeah.
And fashion as well, right? We actually talked about fashion the other day because we're talking a lot about 90s stuff these days. But for girls, chokers, I mean, of course, you can go as far back as ancient Egypt, yeah, and then French in 18th century and 17th century. But the chokers came back in the 90s, super popular. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm just reminiscing.
Overalls for guys too. You know, one strap down. Super popular in the 90s. Bandanas. The color block we talked about. Windbreakers.
Shirts that are too big.
Yeah, the oversized T-shirts.
Yeah, same with pants too. Even
Baggy
like parachute
pants,
type things. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
dude.
fucking
It's a
style.
good
Bucket
times.
hats.
Yeah, I don't think it came back after that, right? Because 80s fashion and culture really came back.
Yeah,
A decade ago or so,
I don't feel like
but-
the 90s. I mean, we've still got people that still appropriate it a bit. There's still
Yeah.
some 90s culture and vibes in the fashion,
Mhm.
but you don't see it as often. It is definitely making a resurgence, like the 80s.
You think- Oh yeah, 80s.
The
for
80s
sure
is
has
making the
come- yeah.
resurgence. So I think it's only a matter of time till we get back to the 90s. But I mean, honestly, I prefer the 80s style to the
Style,
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80s was
Yeah, man. The fucking colors, the kind of like ski
Mhm.
lodge vibe. Like, it looks like everybody belongs at a ski lodge for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I don't like, what is up with the patterns and colors here? Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, I love 80s fashion for sure. Yeah, but I miss 90s too. The fashion. Because I don't really own it. I thought about it the other day. My old jeans are kind of tight, you know. I feel good in them. I guess I don't know since when I prefer this over baggy pants. But there were times when I really preferred baggy pants and hip hop. I still remember my grandma told me that my pants are too long, you know, dragging on the floor. Like, my grandma told me something along the lines of, you're like appointed trash collector or something for this neighborhood because you're collecting all the trash with your pants.
That is so funny.
Yeah, but there was a time when I you know, dressed like that, you know,
Yeah,
baggy pants
yeah.
and all that. But
I never really got into that. The bigger shirts I wore for a little bit. But yeah, I never really was into. This is like as baggy as it. My pants. I mean, the first girl that I was interested in. She was a skater, punk chick. You know, played the drums, musician. So she liked that skater look. So she got me into that look. You know, so the fucking tight black jeans, the Vans.
Yeah.
And tank tops. I have fucking always loved tank tops. It is
Yeah.
so rare. People make comments to me when they see me not wearing a tank top. They're like, "Whoa, you own a t-shirt?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, right? It's fucking crazy." I only wear tank tops. Other than this, just because it's a mushroom shirt. I love mushrooms.
Yeah.
But tank tops by far to me are the most practical shirt. But I don't think they were very popular in the 90s, were they? Well, I don't even know where tank tops originate from or when they're popular.
I think, I don't know. I mean, we can look it up, but whether or not it was popular in the 90s, I think it was popular. Yeah.
You think so? Yeah,
I think
maybe,
so.
Yeah.
I think so. And then, you know, the term wife beater, I don't know. When did it come out for the first time?
Wife beater? Dude, who knows, man?
Could be, I guess, 50s, 60s. Who knows? But
I could see the 50s, like fucking tucked in wife beater with a belt. Like, boy, get your ass back here. You know, like, what do you mean dinner's not ready?
In the 90s, I don't think it was not unpopular. I don't think so. I don't remember being like super popular either, other than like this oversized t-shirts and baggy pants. Those were popular for sure, dude. Because I remember like trying.
Oh
to wear
yeah.
But tank tops, I don't remember, man. I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't popular.
Yeah,
I do not
if we can't remember.
Yeah, if you remember though. Let
Okay,
us know,
guys.
please, in the comments.
If you remember, you
Yeah.
let us know. 'Cause we're gonna go research it right now.
Very authoritative request.
I'm pointing at you.
Behest. Yeah, but since we did the 90s today, maybe we can do the 80s, the 60s, you know.
Yeah, I'd have to do research since I wasn't alive.
Yeah, we can only go back to like 60s, you know, where all the elements of which
I could talk
going.
for hours about the hippies. Let's do it. I'm totally down.
In the mushroom t-shirt, shirts.
Oh,
yeah.
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's going to be
I
glowing.
can't wait to talk.
As he talks about the
Mhm.
60s. They're going to glow. We're going to actually make that happen.
Praise Jesus. I'm going to have my headband, my bandana. I'm going to cut the sleeves off this bad boy. It's going to be fly as hell. Rip them off, not cut them off.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot more things, but it was fun talking about the 90s.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do some more specific topic of the 90s.
Within the
maybe
90s. That'd
maybe
be cool.
gaming, you know, who knows.
Yeah.
I mean, even that we can talk about it for 2 hours.
Easily.
Yeah. But, yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and
thank you, Patreon members.
we
love you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.